Let's see how this goes without me editing the video. I've been thinking about this for a really long time and have been struggling with how to share it, but there's just a few problems that I have with focusing on the genetic component to Ehlers Danlos, at least the hypermobility type, the uncategorized type, and the hypermobility spectrum disorder. I can't honestly keep track of what they're calling all of the different pools, but something just doesn't feel right to me. I think that anything that's a spectrum is something that can't really be fixed without knocking out variation in the human species that would eventually probably lead to the extinction of the human being. And this is something that I'm really passionate about and really concerned about, not just with Ehlers Danlos, but also anything that's a gray area in medicine as to if it's a disorder or a difference. And I think that EDS is really the ultimate gray zone, because there are a lot of people that can live really normal lives, and then there are people that suffer immensely. And the point that I'm trying to make is that it just doesn't feel right to be so focused on finding the genes, because I think it's a good idea, but I think it's when that's the main focus, it's a little bit problematic, because then you have a situation where, what if you found 10 different genes that are related? What kind of hope does that offer for something that, even if you found the genes, even if you found a way to cure the actual genetics by going into somebody's genome and modifying it, is that even an ethical thing to do? And I think that's what I'm questioning. And I'm not trying to say that other people shouldn't be able to do that if that were ever to come up, but it's disturbing to me that nobody's talking about it in that way, and at least thinking or trying to just get a more broad perspective over the whole situation. Because it's like, if all the money is being spent towards finding genes that, even if you found them, how could anybody say which ones could be fixed or not, if we can even fix them? Then it just, like, all this energy is going towards the wrong idea of helping somebody to ultimately live a better life. But I mean, I'm also a very, like, humanitarian person, to the extent that I sometimes err on supporting the collective a little bit too much, I think. And I would never advocate against medical research. Just what I am saying is that I would like more awareness raised about the potential implications of what curing genetic disorders would actually mean to the future of humanity, because evolution has guided our survival for all of time. And it bothers me that humans think that they know better than evolution, because by stating the difference between a a fit human versus a non-fit human, you're automatically implying, not you, the science is implying that they know what's best for the species. And that's not really what people are thinking about. People are focused on ending suffering, and I understand that. And of course, there is potential that if you find a gene, then maybe there's hope for better treatments, which is good, I think. But yeah, I just feel like nobody's talking about this, and somebody needs to say something and ask the question. And the other thing is that maybe in 50 years we'll know more about genetics, and there will be some type of relative guideline for what would be a potential thing to fix and what wouldn't be. So all I'm saying is that right now, where we are in our current understanding of genetics, it doesn't make any sense to think that there's even a possibility of fixing a gene. Now, if it's a molecular issue, that could be, and that is why I wrote an article about sampling or looking at tissue with light, because I think a lot of these answers could be solved if the focus of research was shifted from the genome to the tissue. Because if they could look at the actual structure and see that something was missing or different, then it would be easier to target, I guess, the intermediate pathways from the gene to the person's tissue, instead of, the focus on the genes. Second issue I have with that is that a lot of the time in society, our current society's understanding of a genetic disorder is that there is something that is broken and there's nothing that you can do about it. And that mentality, well, first of all, that mentality should probably just needs to get out of our collective conscious anyway, because there's always something you can do about it. I mean, maybe you don't know what it is. I don't always know what it is, but there's hope that something could help you feel better and function better. So that is my other concern that I would like to vocalize. And I think that there is somewhat an understanding of that, because there's almost an over-understanding of that with doctors that know EDS, because they're all, just do these exercises and you'll be fixed. So there's definitely two sides to that whole issue, and doctors definitely do tend to go in either direction. But what I'm talking about is more on an individual level, like you as a person, if you have EDS and if you start to embody a theory of mind that there's nothing you could do because it's just a problem in your DNA, then that could lead to giving up hope. And I don't know what the hope is, but I do know that whenever something has gone terribly wrong in my body, eventually it has at least stopped getting worse. Sometimes it gets better, but Not everything is doomed automatically, inherently, is maybe what I'm trying to say. Maybe some things are doomed, but it's not an inherent set of directions that are going to unfold and destroy your body automatically. So, yeah. Main point. Here's the main point that I just encourage the world. Okay. Here we go. Dear Earth, when genetic cures become available, I would like for everybody who's offered a cure to just take a couple minutes and think about what that could mean for the future of our species. And ask yourself, are you willing to become a part of something that could lead to the destruction of humanity? And if you're desperate enough, and if you're in that much pain, and you're in that much suffering, and you need to say yes, then you should say yes, because I think that people should always fight for themselves. The individual does come above the collective to some degree, so that is your call. But I would hope that everyone can at least ask the question. And that is the point of this video, because in my personal experience, there have definitely been times when if I was offered a cure, I would say yes. But for the majority of my experience, I've been able to have enough hope and also extreme, I guess, consideration for the future that I could never accept being a part of that. And I'm not trying to say that makes me a better or worse person. I think what it means is that my suffering is under control. Yours may not be, and you have, I don't want to be one of, I don't want people to think that I'm one of those people that doesn't support research and want things to continue. And I would never want to block anyone. Okay, I think I've said that like 3 times. Yeah, I do not want to prevent anybody from receiving a cure or gene technology that could help them. That's not what I want. I just want awareness over what it means, and I want somebody to please talk about this, because I cannot find very many concerns over our future, and I don't understand it. And this seems to happen a lot of the time. Think of the atomic bomb, actually, where there's a quote that I have in the front of my journal, and it says, it's by a gene technologist, and the quote is, once the technology is released, it's like the atomic bomb. It's something that it seemed like a good idea in some ways, to protect. That's where a lot of these dangerous technologies arise from, is like trying to protect ourselves. And in trying to protect ourselves, we accidentally created something that could destroy us. So, yeah, once it's possible, which it is possible already to go in and modify genes, but it's not safe, so nobody really wants to do it. But we're getting really close, and as soon as that barrier is crossed, I think the world needs to start preparing for the implications of how we deal with the ethics behind this technology. And I do think Everyone needs to take personal responsibility for the choices that we're about to make. That is the end of this production. Yeah, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then you can read more about evolution and how the importance of diversity of a species for its longevity and fitness of the gene pool, which is an example of where this became a problem is with dogs, because we've inbred dogs and now like all the purebred dogs have so many health problems. So that is basically what I'm saying could happen to humanity if we start getting rid of all the differences, is one thing. And the other thing is that having diversity in a species, it can save us from something that we can't right now foresee happening. Like, let's say if there was some type of a superbug in the future, and for some reason only people with weakened connective tissue could survive this bug. So if that were the case, then if we eradicated the people with weakened connective tissue by changing their genes, our species would die off. Versus if we allowed the diversity to populate, then there would be a segment of the population that previously was considered to have a disorder would actually have some type of advantage over survival. And an example of this is with the sickle cell trait. People who have sickle cell anemia, a full-blown illness, they are at high risk. And they're like, so they are not, they are suffering at the expense of the people that carry the trait, who are more able to defend themselves against malaria. So it's an example of where having a little bit of something that's bad can actually save you. Or, well, I mean, that's not, save you isn't the right way to say it, but save a population from its environment. The point is, there's no way to know that all of this that's going on with, I don't know if it's a rise of EDS or if it's just, maybe we would have been the people that would have been killed off by all the tigers long ago and we're just surviving or something like that. But there's no way to know if somehow it could be an actual part of evolution in a good way, meaning that. And the reason why I especially think there's something going on here is because of, I mean, think about how young people look who have EDS, and even their family members who don't really have EDS but maybe are carriers of some sort of, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of questions here, and that is actually the end now.